G'day, Aussie Ben here. This is the second part of the game development tutorials. Now, we left off with just a very basic platformer game with not much interactivity happening. So what we'd like to configure now is some events that will occur when I collide with coins. For example, I'd like them to disappear, and some events that would occur if I click a star. I might like that to disappear as well. So to do that, we won't actually be using the scene editor. We're actually going to jump into the events editor. Okay, we'll start off with a blank screen like this, and over the right hand side we're going to add a standard event. Now, events have two parts to them normally. The game will always look for something that's occurring in the game. So for example, it'll always look to see if I'm colliding with something. When it detects that I have collided with something, it'll then perform an action for that. So easiest way to show that is through a demonstration. So a new condition, and there's a whole list of conditions here. Collision happens to be at the top. And now what it logically wants to know is, okay, collision is between two things. So it defaults to just star star, and that's just because that's what's first in the list. So I'm looking to see if there's a collision between my character and a gold coin. And okay. Now I can define what the action is. So I'd like basically the gold coin to be deleted. So add a new action, choose an action, and there we go, right up the top, delete an object. Once again, there is a big list, but we're just after delete an object. It wants to know which object to delete, so be careful you get this right. These are some of the bugs that you'll create for yourself. You'll forget to change the object to the correct object. So I'll say that I want to delete gold coin. Add, and that should be done. So if I hit preview, it'll go back and compile. Again, this should only take a couple of seconds, and we can test that out. It's a good principle to sort of go backwards and forwards and test each major change that you're making in the game to make sure it's doing what you thought. And as expected, my coins are disappearing perfectly. Okay, so now I'll move on and create some interactivity. If I click on a star, it should be deleted. Straight back to Events Editor, and I want to create a new standard event. So it gets its own little area here, and here we go. This one's going to be a little bit more complicated. To click a star, two things have to be checked for. Two conditions need to be present. One, my mouse pointer needs to be hovering on the star, needs to be on the star. That's one condition. And then a second condition is I also happen to be clicking a particular button. So there's two conditions that we have to set up. You set them up one at a time. So I need to find in this condition list something that talks about mouse pointer on something. So I'll just have a bit of a look down the list. Here we go, mouse, the cursor is on an object. Good. Now once again, it'll start to ask some questions. Which object should the cursor be on? Star is good, and I won't change any of these other options here, so I'll just hit add. So that's one option. Now we actually use this add a new condition. And we're going to also look for the condition that we happen to be clicking as well as hovering. So have a look down the list once again and look for something that talks about mouse buttons. Here we go. Mouse and touch. Mouse button down or touch is held. And it'll ask us here which mouse button we're looking to test. So left is good. So if both of these conditions are true, both of these conditions are met, then an action will fire off. So we'll keep it simple and we'll go for a delete action, but it'll be delete the star. So add a new action, delete an object, star, add, and done. We'll do a quick preview. Now this time around the coins should still behave like coins, but the stars should have their own behavior. So just to test something, if I click the coins, nothing happens, and that's correct. If I click the star, star disappears. If I collide with a coin, coin disappears, star is still there. And that's all good. So that's as I was hoping. So we've got some good basic interactivity there with the game. and we can now move on to something a little bit more challenging. What students will tend to notice is that one of the things that is certainly lacking from the game is any reasonable sort of animation. The character just slides. So we're going to fix that up. Just jump back to Scene Editor for a moment, and we'll click on that character, and notice that because these assets have been made for us, not only were they created as a graphic, they were created as a graphic with animations included. So you just need to make a bit of a mental note of what each animation is labeled as. So completely idle is animation 0, a walking animation is animation 1, jumping is animation 2, falling or maybe crouching is animation 3, and so on. So I don't need to change any of that, I just need to make a note of it. What I'm going to do is go to my events editor and add some new events. Now these events are going to look for movement in the character, and if there's a particular movement, play a particular animation. So once again, a completely new standard event. A common error that students will make is that rather than clicking there, they might continue to click to add a new condition, or they might click to add a new sub-event. They have their place, but in this instance we actually just want a brand new add a standard event. Okay, so we need to look for some conditions of movement. So if I scroll down the list, I can see that there are some movement conditions here. So if the character is falling, jumping, moving, and so on. So we'll deal with jumping first of all. Give that a click. Now once again, you need to specify which object you're looking for, character 3, and done. So if the character is jumping, then do a particular action, which will be set a particular animation. Looking down the list, we've got an animation section, so we're going to change animation of the character and set it to, it was 0, 1, 2, animation 2 I believe, and add. Now I'll just give that a quick test, just to make sure I've got the right animation, and this will reveal some success and then it will reveal some problems as well. Okay, so left, right, nothing is happening. Jump, he jumps, but you see now the character is actually stuck in that jump position. So again, as a game developer, it's your responsibility to set all the other events and conditions. So we've only told it to change its animation if it's jumping. There's nothing that automatically says, and after finish jumping, go back to idle. We have to actually put that in. So back to Events Editor, and we're going to set up some other conditions. So we'll set a condition for when the character is falling. So a jump is upwards, falling is downwards. So off we go. Move back down, and is falling, character, add, and I once again want to change the animation of the character, and 0, 1, 2, 3 I think is my one I want to use for falling. Add, and I'm not going to test that, I'm pretty confident that's going to work. I'm just going to get in and add these other animations. So once again, check if the character is moving this time. Now this one's actually a little bit more tricky. If I do that, character is moving, and I add a new action, and I want to change the animation of the character to animation number 1, which I know is the walk cycle. That would seem fine, but I'm just going to show you a problem, and then in the next video we'll correct that problem. So we hit the preview. Okay. Now you'll notice our character just doesn't stop moving now and loses his jump as well. So we'll come back in the next video and we'll complete our events, and we're going to modify this one a bit. We need to not only say is moving, we need to add another condition to this condition. So we'll check that in the next video.